Welcome to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling. You are about to discover impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you, so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Be sure you visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now tune in, get ready, and enjoy the journey of emerging as a leader of exception in the 21st century.
Welcome, everyone, to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast. I'm your host, Vicki Noethling, coming to you from Roswell, Georgia. The goal of this podcast is to bring topics and guests that will empower you to become that confident leader and take your business and your life to the next level. Today, I am really excited to have with me Andrew Ronchetto. Got it right?
There you go.
For a person who has a terrible last name for pronunciation, I'm always striving to achieve that. So Andrew is a visionary leader in the wellness industry, known for his passion for revolutionizing holistic health through innovative, data-driven solutions. With a proven track record of launching successful enterprise digital products, he's been consistently leading global teams to exceed expectations. And Andrew's unique approach integrates cutting-edge technology and personalized wellness strategies, positioning him in the forefront of his industry. He is dedicated to driving beyond to new heights, making wellness more accessible and impactful for all. So we're going to talk about building resilience. You know, I always love to talk about this. And so he's going to share strategies for mental well-being in the fast-paced, and you can't say that enough, fast-paced world that we live in. So please join me in welcoming Andrew Ronchetto. Awesome. Oh, I can't wait to get into this subject because our world is crazy fast, you know.
It
From
is.
someone who's been around the sun for 60 plus years. It is different than it was when I was young. And it's exciting, but it can be overwhelming. And oftentimes our mental stability sacrificed for this, as well as our wellness. You know, we go and forget, oh, wait, this body is only a vessel. And you have to take care of it. So I'm really excited for you to share today.
Well, I'm excited to be here. So thank you so much for the opportunity to talk with you and your listeners. And
Excellent. And we always start out with two easy questions to kind of break the ice. And the first is just to tell everybody, where do you live? Where do you call home right now?
well, I call home Houston, Texas. I'm not originally from there. So for those that are natives, I'm an implant, as we like to say. So, but I've been
Where'd you
there
come
for
from originally?
St. Louis, but I'm not even born there either. So I guess I could say I've traveled a little. No, I was in Kentucky for a few weeks, way back in the day, and now I've made my way to Houston and call that home with my family.
And so you got the East Coast, the Mid, and you just have to dip your toe over the West Coast, and you've covered the U.S.
Yep, I know my family does a little, so we're already dipping the toe in the water there at least.
Well, it's cold water over there. All right, so share a bit about your journey. You know, I just shared where you are and the amazing things you're doing right now, but I'd love for you to go back a little bit in history and explain, you know, the path and the different twists and turns that really led you to do what you do today and why you do what you do today.
No, and I appreciate it, Vicky, because I think it's all these experiences that kind of get us to where we are. And I think that's partly what makes it so unique for me and how it's different from you. And so when I I would say like there's so many steps along the way, starting from high school where I got into robotics.
Ah,
And that pushed me out of this comfort zone of what it meant to be on a team, I'll say lead within a team, even if you're not the leader.
mm-hmm.
What it means to get in front of a ton of people. I think at one point it's like I was standing in front of, 10,000 people and had to say something. And, as a high school student, it takes a lot of courage and, to get
Mm-hmm.
you out and do that. And so I think it's experiences like that early on in life that then led me to through college to get into student government and the way that I can contribute back to my fellow students. And ultimately that got me into consulting. Like,
Yeah.
I loved this idea of this fast-paced, constant, I'll say, new project, get it in, get it going, turn out some outcomes that are necessary for the client, and then use that and to continue to work with that said client or bring, those experiences to a new client. And I
Yeah.
did that for almost 15 years. Still doing a little bit of it today, but I would say that really is kind of what molded and shaped what I understand from a technology perspective. Done a
Right.
number of projects in the digital transformation space for enterprises across various industries. But I would say, started to understand what it meant to bring empathy to leadership
Yeah.
and what it means to, and be able to lead teams that are extremely diverse, not just by location, not just by experiences and culture, but just across, I'll say, different perspectives on how to get after a solution. And when you've got a team of 100+ people that all have ideas that are valid ideas, that ability to kind of bring it together, and how to do it seamlessly, I would say, has really driven some of my passions. But what I started to discover out of that was, and that's kind of really what got me to today, is I burnt the candle on both ends.
Mm-hmm.
And, while I was in those high stress situations and finding ways to cope, we talk about resiliency. Like, I wasn't just going to walk away from, a client saying, "Hey, we got this project. We need you to do it in 10 months, but we know it normally takes like 2 years. Go." Like, how do you want
Yeah.
to, how do you do it? And it was awesome to be able to bring the team together and do something like that. But it requires a lot of, I'm going to say, coping on my side to make sure that we, are showing strong leadership, that we're also being vulnerable because we're putting them in high stakes, situations
Yeah.
as well. And I would say that just kind of spiraled for me over time. I started to kind of get into this regular routine of constantly fighting fires and that leadership team for clients.
Mm.
And it took a toll, working long
Yeah.
hours, not eating probably right, not
Yeah.
exercising. We, bring this to holistic wellness, impacting my relationships. So
Yeah.
there was some imbalance in there. And ultimately, where I'll lead this to is after all of that, a decade plus of time and energy, I got hurt. And
Oh, great.
I know, right? Just icing on the cake.
Yeah.
But you can probably appreciate this, and I know there's listeners out there that can, is we oftentimes don't recognize our imbalances until we have something happen to us. In my case, it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't as extreme as others who have had heart attacks or strokes. But the point being is, it's usually those moments in time where our body, like you said, our vessel kicks us in the butt
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah. It
says,
says,
"Hey,
psh,
no more."
yeah.
And that was my case. And as I was starting to go through my recovery, and what led me to building Beyond and the platform and starting to, be on podcasts with yourself, was really this idea of building a community and a platform and an experience where it says, one, you're not alone, which we all talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
But two, the one most important one for me is you got to think holistically. Like,
Yeah.
you can't just go after the mental or the physical. You got to think of the interconnectedness between those. And we don't
Mm-hmm.
do enough of that today. And that's what Beyond is all about. And what we're trying to do there is create the tools and the capabilities for you as an individual, but also for practitioners, coaches, advisors who are working with you and as a part of your support community, And even in enterprises and organizations, because look, I mean, they're a third of your life.
Yeah,
You know, for some
that's
people, it's
right.
even more than that. And the ability for them to influence in a positive way more than what we've been seeing lately is
Yeah.
so critical and foundational. So, this long journey of experiences and working with people and your personal, reflection and pauses has really kind of gotten me to this point where we now have Beyond, and we're excited where we're going with it and what we're doing with it.
So it, the Beyond is the name of the company,
Hmm.
and you talk about your really starting with getting into wellness and holistic. How long did it take you to recover from that pivotal moment that and what did you learn, I guess, about yourself during that time?
Well, so this isn't trying to, I'll say, scare anybody, but I'm still recovering.
Yeah.
I'm in year two, almost three now. And the reason why I say I'm still recovering is not because my back is better now. Like
Right.
somehow I discovered that stress can materialize itself in herniated discs. Go
Yes.
figure. Like,
Yes.
and so, I've gone through some intensive therapy there, and that helped me immensely. Um, but I'm still on this long journey and I still have regular therapy. But I started to look at, well, how did I get there? Because yeah, I talked with this with other folks. I'm like, it's not like somebody wasn't, tapping me on the shoulder saying, Andrew, you got to slow down. Andrew, you should get some more sleep. Andrew, you should eat,
Mm,
like people in my, people that love me, my friends, my
mm,
family, my wife, we're all saying, dude, wake up, you
mm,
know? And then I wasn't. And it's unfortunate because, I would say it could have gotten worse than that because I wasn't
yeah.
sleeping. And it required this reflection that I'm still going through today. But I think that's in what we've decided to also build out and beyond is this journey of life is one of many journeys. So it's like you got a macro journey of just where you want to go. But then
Mm,
it's like based on stages of life, there's a journey maybe because you want a family. There's a journey because of your career or friendships or social experiences. I mean,
mm,
or adventures into the unknown. You want to go to Africa and explore
mm,
for 3 months. I mean, those are all journeys that are kind of part of this macro journey of life. And
mm,
how we bring those together and see how they balance each other out to drive intellectual growth and spiritual growth and all these other aspects of well-being that sometimes we forget about. It's just, I think, the fundamental part of where we're trying to go with it. And so that's the journey I've been on with my recovery. That's still going on, and I'm sure it will for a while, but it's starting to now morph itself into
mm,
other journeys. And that's the exciting part for me because it starts to say, well, my wife and I were recently reflecting on how how things have been going for us, where we wanted to go, what we wanted to stop, what we wanted to continue, and what do we want to do new. And,
mm,
one of the things we talked about as a part of that was, well, for some of the things we want to do new, what do we want to take out?
yeah.
Because it's finally that one of the things I talk about a lot is consciously making these decisions rather than subconsciously like we do a lot right now,
Mm.
like, oh, I got 15 more minutes, meanwhile you're 3 hours behind. So yeah, it's been a lot of things. And so the journey for us has really been about how I evolved my practices. And that's where I really am in my recovery now, is in seeing how I can be more sustainable, and still get my, the proper food and water and sleep,
Mm.
basically fundamental requirements to
Yes, exactly.
approach everything else. So,
So in the beginning, I talked about data driven. And so, how do you see data driven solutions shaping the future of personalized healthcare?
ooh, well, that's a big one.
Mm.
I'm sure we can talk about for ad nauseum how much
Yes.
AI and data has really
Mm.
done this. But when I think about data-driven solutions, I think the biggest part for me in it, which we've really struggled with, at least in the US and in other areas of the world too, is being able to actually see all our data.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've got it in this app, we've got it in that app, it's in Google Health and Apple Health, it's with our, health practitioner, with our doctor, and bringing all that together to say, like, actually, this is what I look like from a digital perspective,
Mm-hmm.
really doesn't exist today. Not
Mm-hmm.
without tons of paperwork and legal jargon that we tend to just scribble and write past by super
Mm-hmm.
quickly. And so part of this data driven is creating more visibility to what you already know or have about yourself, and then starting to then use that to decide or discern where you want to go with it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some thoughts about like this idea of creating a digital twin. I know I'm throwing some technical speak out there, but
Yeah,
if you were to
that's right.
digitalize yourself,
Mm-hmm.
what would that look like? And do you like that reflection of yourself? Do you not? Is there something you want to evolve? And so that's where I think the data starts to help you self-reflect on where you are, where you're going. And I think we're just at the tip of really getting into it, in part because we've just had it in so many scattered places for so long.
Exactly. Yeah. When we talk about this, being a longtime project manager before I retired, one of the things that's so frustrating to me is whenever you start to deal with, and I look to whenever I was dealing with my parents and their medical issues and things. And I always think, there needs to be a project manager for all of the doctors, just one person, and all the doctors are your stakeholders that talk to one another and know what's going on, because it's just so frustrating, all the different misdirections you do because one person doesn't know everything about you. And,
Yes.
your health is so important for people to know everything about you. And it's not all on the doctor's side. I would sit at meetings, at sessions with my mom, and she would only give pieces and parts of information to her healthcare professional. And it was like, but what about this? And what about that? And so, it's on all of us are accountable for that. So, I'm, I think that a place where all that data about you, understanding the privacy piece, just would be
Absolutely.
so helpful.
No, and I obviously couldn't agree more because that's the whole basis of like us trying to
Yeah.
build beyond.
Hmm.
But you're right. Like there was something early on when we were looking at, well, what do we want to do differently with the platform that we don't really have today from a technology perspective, but that we can do with today's technology. I think there's
Hmm.
those two aspects in there. One of them you talked about is privacy. Um, and I think we can do a lot more in that space than we already are today. And it doesn't require new technology like Web 3.0 that says, well, now you own it because it's in your wallet, so to say,
Hmm.
we can do that with real technology in a way that I, as a technology company, become more of a facilitator, but at the core, you still own your data and the way we've written our
Hmm.
policies and the way we've implemented and architected our technology. All of that can then come down to saying, look, this is you. Like, so if you want to share it with, doctors A, B, C, and D, go for it. If you want to take it away from them, go for it. Like
Hmm.
it's both of these factors. And so how do we build technology to do those types of things where you're more in control? And not just the ability to have privacy because regulations require it, but the ability to then actually action on it. So
Hmm.
that's a big one for us. It's one we continue to evolve. But the second one I think it hits on that you were just talking about a moment ago, and I've mentioned this to folks, is called the availability bias. And a
Hmm.
lot of that comes down to, you know, what we're recently thinking about, talking about. And so, like your example of, the experience you had with your mom and then talking with a doctor, I think that happens all the time, not because we, don't want to give them everything. It's just, you're in that conversation for 15 minutes, I'm going to say, just throw a number out there.
If
But it's
that,
not,
yeah.
yeah, if that. But 15 minutes is like 1% of your time within a week. And
Hmm.
there are tens of thousands of decisions and actions you take every single day.
Yeah.
So how do you discern all that into such a small time frame where it's just nearly impossible? And I think that's what we're trying to do with some of the technology, is find ways where you can interact with the technology on a more frequent basis.
Mhm.
It's yours still, it's your data, but then a practitioner that you've provided access to can come in and say, see and look at that, and yeah, at some point here we'll talk about AI, but use AI to really ask the same probing questions they would have during that initial 5 minutes of the conversation, but then more importantly, keep diving into it. So when they get to that 15 minutes with you, it's not using 5, 10 of it just to figure out what's happened between this and a month ago when you last saw.
Right.
It's
Hmm.
more about, I'll say, planning and strategizing, because this goes back to resiliency. It's like you want to keep
Hmm.
the path, you want to keep on the path, you want to keep going, and part of that is recognizing when you're in a rut, and another
Yeah.
part of that is after you recognize it, doing something about it, and
Hmm.
with your support
Yeah.
team or community doing something about it.
Yeah. And that's really so important, because, sometimes you had an issue, but you don't see the doctor for a month. And so the issue happened the day after you left the doctor's office. And so you have to hope that your brain will remember that. So if there was a way, what I used to tell my mom is just write it down somewhere. So we have it in your folder and we'll take it to the folder and we'll just kind of go down the list of the things that you were concerned about or whatever, so that you remember, I remember, and it's good. But a lot of times people don't do that. But, is there a way that we can use AI to just say, hey, Google, or no, don't, but
As it pops up behind you,
right.
yes.
You know, uh, remind me to tell the doctor about A or B or whatever. And that way your thoughts are expressed, captured, and then being able to be used later. And, that could be for a number of different things. But, it's just, if you have to go and type it somewhere, if you have to go and, grab your phone or something, it's a step that will make you not do it, most likely. But
Yep.
if you express verbally your thoughts and they're captured, I think that's just a fabulous way to take advantage of this technology, because it is a fast-paced world. It is that passing moment, like, oh my gosh, how many times have you out there hit yourself and say, oh God, I better remember why I have that bruise that's going to come in 3 days. And we don't remember, and then
No,
three
we
days
don't.
ago we get that bruise and it was like, where the heck did I get that from?
Yep.
Just different things.
Well, what's interesting in what you said there is, for me, I think about it in the way, almost like in the way we learn.
Yeah.
Some people are auditory, some people are visual, some people are just doers. And what's interesting about that, if we apply it to the same scenario you're bringing up, it's, well, some people like to talk, let me just, hey, Google it and, put it out there. Some people like to write, maybe journal. And some people are like, look, I don't want to think about it. Give me a form, and those are just three that I can think of, but I'm sure there's more out there.
Yeah.
But this idea that all three of those are kind of these pulse checks. And it's like, how can we capture those? So, like, to your point, I'm not sure how I could get to the hey Google right away. I'm sure it's not too hard. I'm just, in the moment here saying like how we connect it in. But the point being is like, if we can give you, say, I want to create a pulse check for today, how I did. And that's partly why we call them pulse checks. Like, it's a moment
Yeah.
in time, almost if you were taking your pulse. And it's like, yeah, today I want to write because, man, it was just a day and I just need to, download. Or I want you to, I just want to ramble, get my glass of
Yeah.
wine and just, I hate to say it, talk to my screen.
Hmm.
But all of these can be discerned down into data that can be data points
Yeah.
about how you're doing emotionally, how you're doing, mentally, how you're doing physically, because we can discern some of that from there. Like if you fell today, like we were talking about, or you got a
Mm-hmm.
bruise, and what's stressing you out, because there's two parts to it here. Is it's not just like what's going well, it's also like what's got so much on your mind that it's distracting you from everything else you want to get done.
Yeah.
And sometimes just downloading that allows you to relieve it and, come back to it at a later point in time. So if you're always concerned about your financials, it's like I can see that over time, because you're like, yeah, I thought about it again today. I got to pay that
Mm-hmm.
bill tomorrow. I got, school payment coming up in a week.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that we start to say is like, okay, is there a type of journey you want to go on to change that?
Yeah.
And so it starts to create an opportunity for you of self-reflection and opportunity for you to recognize where there might be something to do something.
And, I can see the different tools that I use already, my Aura ring, my smartwatch, where it's capturing those data points that, and then it's connected to apps that, as you were saying, those different that all of these different things out there, but nobody's actually combining them. But the apps where you say, well, how was your stress level right now? And then you put it in a smiley face or whatever it is. And and you capture your blood pressure and all those different things, but they're all not connected. And so having that data be connected, I think, is where the real true vision comes in.
And that's what we're going after. Like it is a complex problem. I always tell people, I'm like, if it were easy, somebody would have already solved it. Um, but it's not easy because it's different, your blood pressure in a particular moment in time, to pick on that, could be completely due to stress that's going on in your life, or the lack thereof. Like, there's just so many variables at play. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's not easy for anybody to say, like, here's the data model for Vicky's life or Andrew's life for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where we see these apps just going, narrow into a specific dimension of holistic wellness, say just mental or just physical, because
Mm-hmm.
going past that is really hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
They'll ask you, they're like, "Oh, how are you feeling today?" And you're like, smiley face. And they're like, "Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's great. Now you got to do 20 more reps." And you're like, well, okay, why am I giving you data that you obviously don't care about? Like,
Yeah, that's right.
so
Oh gosh, time's flying by. In the last minute here, how do you balance innovation with practical needs of the clients that you have? Um,
great question. And I think the best way that we can approach it, and I think you can appreciate this as a project manager, former or current, I think it always sticks with you.
you
I'm
live with
one
it
by myself.
forever.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. It just floats into your life at the worst
Mm-hmm.
moments possible.
Or the
But no, I'm being one myself. Like I
mm-hmm.
totally get
Mm-hmm.
it. And what I would say is the biggest thing we try to do there is listen.
Yeah.
So innovation comes from perspective, and perspectives can only be gathered if you're listening. And so for us, that ability to build tools, like there's tens of thousands of tools, I would say on the product backlog, to say, in order to really get after everything you and I've been talking about. How do you
Yeah.
integrate all the different smart devices that you're using, or the apps on the back end of that? How do you discern which one takes priority of the other when there's
Mm-hmm.
a conflict? I mean, there's tons of things on the backlog, so to say, or in requirements to get after. And so for us to really create something that's purposeful, that's valuable, it for innovation's sake, we really rely on our customers, and our clients sharing with us what's important for us. And then also, I'm going to say, not losing the factor of applying some critical thought to that, because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes what somebody says they need might just be a symptom of a bigger, problem, or something, the root cause.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it requires us to go after that root cause and then subsequently address what they're looking for. So,
Mhm. Going back to my project management, one of the important stages is the information gathering. And I used to do process mapping
okay.
as this in the beginning parts because when I talk you through your process, day to day, whatever you do, that's where a lot of times we uncovered that while you wanted to do this, if you look at your process, you really should do that. And so I think it's the same thing. You just have to really take a good look and see where are the gaps, where are the opportunities. And, gosh, I had a project that I did where we really needed to fix something. I needed to have actually like a collaboration amongst competitors so that
Interesting.
we could tackle it as this is for the greater good. And while, you have what you do and go through all that privacy stuff right there too, but, you know, if it's for the greater good, then why not put all these great minds together to actually come up with a solution that will help everyone?
I think that's the nature of being a good or great project manager and leader for that matter. Because you're bringing all of those people together. And I know what you're talking about because I've had to do it as well. And
Mhm.
I think there was at one point I told somebody, I was like, I have 13 different companies working on this project, all
Yeah.
different, opinions, attitudes, sales requirements, like dot, dot, dot. How do you
Mhm.
deal with that and not drive everybody crazy or, create a lack of collaboration as a result of it? So
Yeah.
100%.
Well, time has flown by, and we do need to wrap this up. Probably have to have a follow on conversation to continue the discussion. But if you out there that are just listening want to connect with Andrew, you know that you can go to my YouTube channel to be able to grab the information there. So go to Vicki Noethling and please subscribe if you haven't, or you can go to my findyourleadershipconfidence.com website. For those listening, the website is beonplatform.com. That's BEON platform.com. LinkedIn is his name, Andrew, and that's Ronchetto. And Instagram is Beyond Platform, just like his website. I'm going to turn it to Andrew. He's going to tell you what you can find on the website, resources, links, anything that might help you, as well as what he puts out there on LinkedIn and Instagram that and how often. Go ahead.
Absolutely. So we try to get out there at least something once a week, at most every couple of weeks. And on our website, you can find an insights link to various resources we have, to podcasts we've been a part of, and we look to actually bring that to you both in our social media feeds, so LinkedIn and Instagram especially, where you'll be able to also then reference back and find all the rest of our content there in the insights and resources. So a lot of it's going into there. We're thinking about it from the perspective of not just individuals, but keeping them at the center, how practitioners, coaches, mentors become a part of that support team around you, and most importantly, how we bring organizations into this conversation to wrap it all up. And it's a big, problem like we've been talking about, but we're putting it all into our website. We're putting it into these conversations like we had a wonderful one today, Vicki, and keep reaching out to us. DM us. We try to respond in a reasonable time. You got questions, you want to do something about it, think about it differently. We'd love to collaborate and just, start moving forward, not move
Awesome.
backwards.
Fantastic. Well, Andrew, had a great conversation today. Love chatting with you. And hopefully, people have got some insights as to how they can be more resilient and also get that mental well being because the world's not going to slow down for us. So,
Nope.
um, but it is up to us to sometimes slow down ourselves.
Very true.
As always, I remind everyone that life is a journey and it's up to you to enjoy the ride. This is Vicki Noethling signing off.
Thank you for tuning into the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling, where we share impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Remember to visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast.